Hello and welcome back to another Warhammer 40K battle report here on FFS Gaming. Today's battle will be between the Deathwatch Marines of the Black Spear Task Force and the Orks running the Warhorde detachment. The mission they're playing is Taken Hold with the rule Hidden Supplies and the deployment of Search and Destroy. That's about it. This is the map, so let's jump right in. Usually this battle has 5 objective markers in it, 1 in each deployment zone and 3 in no man's land. But with the Hidden Supplies rule, a 6th objective marker is added. With the primary mission being Taken Hold, all you have to do is hold 1, 2, or more objectives to score your primary. And with the 6 objective markers on the board, you can be pretty sure there's going to be a pretty high scoring affair here. That about wraps it up, so let's jump into the armies, starting with the Orks.
Alright boys, let's show these Space Marines the power of the war!
This force is led by Boss Snickrot and his faithful commandos, who you may have recognized from the last Kill Team battle. 3 Meganobs, freshly assembled, yet to be painted, equipped with power claws and big shooters. We've got 20 Beastnaga boys. Yes, I know they're boys, but they're Beastnaga boys today. And they're led by their Beast Boss. And he's got the Follow Me Lads, which gives the entire squad 8-inch move, which lets them move pretty quickly. We've got a lone Weird Boy. Usually he can run with boys, but today he's going to be solo, using the jump on himself to get into hard to reach places and perform secondary objectives. Hopefully. Or he'll blow himself up. We've got 10 Gretchen, led by their Runt Herder, and these guys are just absolutely mandatory. Usually I run more than one, but today I'm only running 1 unit, and they're just going to stand on that objective and try to generate command points. We've got 5 Flash Kits, good at mowing down Marines if given the opportunity. And we've got a lone Beast Boss on Squigosaur. I'm in the process of assembling some Squighog boys for him, so today he's going to be running solo. He's got the Head Wappa Kill Choppa, which gives all his attacks devastating wounds. Pretty cool. We've also got 3 what are they called? Defcoptas? Yeah, Defcoptas in reserve, and they're going to come in later, shoot some rockets, perform some secondary objectives. They're always good to have in the field. So that wraps up the Orks list. Let's hop over into the Deathwatch list next.
The time is now, brothers. Honor your chapters. Bring death to the alien.
In no particular order, we've got 5 Deathwatch veterans, 2 with power weapons and storm shields, 2 with thunder hammers, and 1 with the dual black shield blades. Not to be confused in this whole ball of silver, but there are 10 assault marines with jump packs, led by their captain with a jump pack. He's equipped with a thunder hammer and storm shield, and they are sure to chop up some orcs if given the chance. We've got 5 Vanguard veterans with power weapons and storm shields. They're starting off on the home objective, but they're fast enough to assist in the battle if needed. And now for the core of the army, we have a 10-man Deathwatch veteran squad, 4 with thunder hammers, 4 with power weapons and storm shields, 1 with a Xenophase blade and a plasma pistol, and 1 with the dual black blades. They are also led by Watch Captain Artemis, and he is going to be pretty helpful because he'll give them lethal hits. There is also an apothecary in the unit, so any Marines that fall, the apothecary will be able to revive them. I'm hoping that this unit lasts pretty far into the game. I need them to do a lot of damage for me. There's also a nifty synergy where you can take some wounds on the Marines and then switch over to Artemis, because when he is defeated on a 2-up, he brings himself back to life. And that can give the apothecary enough time to start reviving the Deathwatch veterans that have fallen already. At least that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, there's also a lieutenant with combi weapon and the dual weapons. He is going to be pretty good for running around doing secondary objectives. He can mark one of the main objectives in the center of the battlefield to make the units, his allies, more effective at wounding, so he's good to have. We'll see how effective he is. And in reserves, we have a 3-man Inceptor squad with the Plasma Exterminators. They are going to be in Deep Strike, and there are also 6 Eradicators who are coming in on reserves to make sure they don't get shot by some stray rockets and that they can drop the first attack on either the enemy Death Dread or the Death Coptas or something like that. With all that out of the way now, the roll-off went to the Orks, so we're going to jump into Orks turn 1. In turn 1, the Orks drew Overwhelming Force, which they spent a CP to discard, and then drew Cleanse and Establish Locus. This is what the Orks movement phase looked like. Luckily, the Boss Nickrod and the Commandos were able to deploy forward onto one of the points, so the Beast Boss was able to cleanse one of the objectives, Snickrot was able to cleanse another, and the Mega Knobs were able to get into the center to establish the locus. With the actions being done, the Flash gets setting up to get themselves into a good spot, and the Beast Boys ready to charge next turn. This will end the Orcs' turn. No shooting, no charging, no fighting. It was a good turn, 6 points, nothing to scoff at. That'll take us over into Deathwatch turn 1. Deathwatch drew Bring It Down and Secure No Man's Land. Secure No Man's Land is definitely doable. Bring It Down came up as a question that I will discuss later in the video. Let me know what you guys think. In their command phase, the Deathwatch put the Oath of Moment on the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, and they spent 1 CP to use Adaptive Tactics to give the Deathwatch veterans, well really both Deathwatch veterans units, sustained hits 1 until the next command phase. In their movement phase, the Deathwatch moved up somewhat cautiously, keeping the Assault Marines and the Deathwatch veterans safe on the right side of the screen. The Vanguard veterans are protecting the home objective, and the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon went and secured the objective marker in the bottom left. The main center of attention is the 10 Deathwatch veterans, with Artemis and the Apothecary are moving forward to engage the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. This unit made their charge into the Beast Boss with a pile-in. Most of them will get in, but not all of them. The Flash Gits were in position. They spent 1 CP to overwatch into the veterans, but no luck. At the start of the fight phase, there was a lot going on here. The Beast Boss spent 1 CP for Ard as Nails to give himself -1 to be wounded, while the Deathwatch are benefiting from Oath of Moments, the Lieutenant's ability that gives the squad reroll 1s to wound while contesting his chosen objective, as well as lethal hits from Artemis and the 1 CP that was spent to give that squad sustained hits. After all that was said and done, the Thunderhammers started the fight and ended it. I forgot, actually, that the veterans also have Death to the Alien, which gives them full rerolls against Xenos races, so they really didn't need Oath Moments, but either way, they got the full rerolls, they brought down the Beast Boss, they were content. Now here's the interesting part. We were playing this as if the Beast Boss on Squigosaur was a monster. We checked afterwards, and that creature actually doesn't have the monster keyword, which is genuinely surprising to me. We counted it as a monster, so it is going to score the Deathwatch 2 points. If it turns out that the game comes down to 2 points, we'll revisit it and we'll probably take that off the board. But for now, they score 2 points for Bring It Down. They'll also score 5 points easy for Secure No Man's Land. Very doable when you have an infiltrator in your unit. Either way, that's the end of Deathwatch turn 1, so we'll jump over into Orks turn 2. Alright, for Orks turn 2, they drew behind enemy lines and engaged on all fronts. Both doable, but they're going to need some clever maneuvers to pull this off. The Gretchen also managed to scrap a command point for the Orks, and they activate the Wah. It's time to get the boys stuck in. As the Orks begin to plan their movement, they deep strike the Death Coptas on the left side of the screen, and they spend 1 CP on Here We Go to give the Beast Boss and his 20 boys +2 to advance and +2 to charge. And here on the Wah, all the units will be able to advance and charge, so that unit is moving very fast. The Orks are planning a bit of a counterpunch to avenge their fallen beast boss. The Flashgits are staying put to get that +1 a hit. The Death Dread, which I realize I forgot to mention in the introduction. There is a Death Dread in this army, by the way. The Death Dread and the Mega Knobs and the Deep Striking Deathcopters are all turning their sights on the Deathwatch veterans, Artemis, and the Apothecary unit. Snickrot and his boys are also staying out of sight, waiting for their turn to strike. The Weird Boy successfully used the jump on himself to teleport himself from his deployment zone to the bottom of the screen, which puts him in the Deathwatch deployment zone, which will allow him to score behind enemy lines and contribute to engage on all fronts. And last but certainly not least, the Beast Boss leads his 20 Beast Snagger boys into combat. Remember, they're moving 8 inches because of Follow Me Lads, and they advanced with a +2 on that, and they will be charging with an additional +2 thanks to the advance and charge from the Wa. So they are getting stuck in. In response to the Deathcopter's deep striking, the 6 Eradicators spend 1 CP to rapid ingress to sort of match them and also be prepared to shoot into the Death Dread. All their targets are in one place, which is good for them. Now the Orks shoot, and their targets are deliberate. They put everything into the Deathwatch veteran squad, who spend 1 CP to use Armor of Contempt. Many of the Deathwatch veterans are taken down from the rockets, from the Deathcopters and the Death Dread, and the Flashgits guns. And along the way, to absorb some shots, Artemis was also brought down from the shooting, but he'll have a chance to revive himself at the end of the shooting phase. Artemis does revive himself on a 2-up, so we can jump right over into the charge phase next. Thanks to all their buffs to their movement, the Beast Snaggers make a very long charge, and they charge into the Deathwatch veterans. They don't want to tag the Assault Marines because that's a lot of chainswords, and they're also trying to position themselves very particularly that they score the 2 secondaries that are on the board right now. The fight phase kicks off with the Beast Boy. They absolutely run over the Deathwatch veterans, but they're very careful not to consolidate into the Assault Marines, giving them a free attack. 2 CP are spent to let the lone Deathwatch veteran and Artemis, and technically the Apothecary, fight. However, thanks to the 5-up Invul and 5-up Feel No Pains on the Wa, only 1 Mega Knob falls. The Mega Knobs finish off Artemis, again, for good, and the Death Dread surprisingly whiffs, doing no damage to the last veteran or the Apothecary. It was a bloody turn, with the main Deathwatch veteran unit being all but wiped out. The Orcs scored 10 on primary for holding 2 objectives, but not more, and scored 3 on behind enemy lines, thanks to the Weird Boy, who used the jump to get into the backfield. However, the Beast Boss wasn't able to get his boys all the way wholly within enemy territory. They probably needed maybe another inch or so on the charge, but either way, they cleared a lot of distance. The Orcs are engaging on all 4 table quarters. They'll score 17 points, and will hop over into Deathwatch turn 2. The Deathwatch draw extend battle lines and establish locus, both of which are doable here. In the command phase, they put Oath of Moments on the big squad of Beast Boys. The Apothecary revives 1 Deathwatch veteran, and the Deathwatch are going to go ahead and use one of their mission tactics to give the entire army sustained hits 1 until the start of their next command phase. As far as movement goes, the Vanguard veterans are going to sit tight, making sure that they complete the extend battle lines by holding their home objective. The Assault Intercessors with the jump packs and the Captain are getting ready to crash into the Beast Boys. That's going to be a hell of a fight. The 6 Eradicators who rapid ingressed are moving to claim the objective that the Lieutenant had already taken, and the Lieutenant is moving to engage the Weird Boy who appeared in their deployment zone. That should be an interesting fight as well. It should also be said that the 2 Deathwatch veterans and the Apothecary succeeded on their battle shock and fell back out of combat. They actually have the OC to maintain control of that objective, so they're going to stay on the objective but not give the Mega Knobs and the Death Dread a free fight, and most likely would kill them. Last but certainly not least, the Inceptors use their favorite rule to deep strike within 6 of the Gretchen. They're actually coming down to establish a locus in the deployment zone, but now that's a threat that the Orks are going to have to deal with, and something tells me the Gretchen aren't going to be able to do it on their own. Even despite moving, the Eradicators split their fire, they destroy the Deathcopters, and deal 2 damage to the Death Dread. That 5-up invul on the Wa saved it big time. Moving over into the charge phase, the Assault Marines charge into the Beast Boys and take down 4 with the Hammer of Wrath impact mortals. Then jumping over into the fight phase, the Assault Marines begin the fight and destroy the rest of the Beast Boys, leaving the Beast Boss all alone. Sustained hits and +1 strength from the captain made these guys very lethal. We went ahead and played out this duel. The Lieutenant fought first and dealt no damage, and then the Weird Boy immediately fought back and did no damage in return. So the 2 of them fought to a draw. We must not have grabbed a picture, but the Beast Boss did bring down 1 Assault Marine, and that wrapped up the turn. Looking at the scoreboard, the Deathwatch scored 15 on primary. They were able to score extend battle lines with the Eradicators maintaining the objective, and the Inceptors, who dropped into the enemy deployment zone, were able to establish locus. That's a big 24-point turn for the Deathwatch, giving them the lead, up 41-33, as we jump over into Orks round 3. In round 3, the Orks draw Assassination and Containment. Containment's definitely doable with either the Commandos and the Flesh Kits, or the Weird Knob if he can get himself out of trouble. Assassination should be doable, assuming the Mega Knobs can kill the Apothecary in the center of the battlefield. The movement phase sees the Beast Boss fall out of combat. It sees the Weird Boy use to jump on himself to get away from the Lieutenant and drop himself on the right side of the screen. There he'll be able to do containment, as well as the Commandos are doing containment on the bottom left side of the screen. So that'll be 2 of the 3. Now we just need Assassinate to fall into place. The Death Dread engages the Eradicators, but the Eradicators spend 1 CP to Overwatch, and they deal 16 damage to him with their built-in rerolls and sustained hits thanks to the mission tactic that's still available. That is 1 very dead Death Dread. Deciding to split their fire, 2 Flash Kits shoot into the Deathwatch veterans, killing 1, and the other 3 are only able to do 2 damage to the Eradicators. Not the best shooting phase for them. Boldly, the Gretchen shoot at the Inceptors, but do no damage. Since the Death Dread's now dead, the only charge here is the Mega Knobs, which they get in because it was like a 2-inch charge. They fight into the Deathwatch veterans. They do finish off the last veteran, but only deal 2 damage to the Apothecary, which means he survives, they fail Assassinate, and he deals 1 damage in return, and generates 1 CP on a 2-up when his bodyguard unit died, just as a little bit of salt in the wound. So yeah, not the Mega Knob's finest hour. Now it's not great for the Orks, but it's not bad either. They score 10 on primary, and they do score the full 6 on containment. Now they're gonna hold on to Assassinate because killing the Apothecary is almost inevitable, right? But they don't score it here. So that's gonna put them up to 49-41, going into Deathwatch round 3. At the start of their turn, they draw behind enemy lines and recover assets, both definitely doable. They put the Oath of Moment on the Commando squad, and they utilize their second mission tactics, giving the whole army lethal hits this turn. The Inceptors find themselves in an interesting position. They could have recovered assets in the enemy deployment zone, but 2 of the 3 zones were already accounted for. This would have gained them another 3 points, but removing the Gretchen would actually cost the Orks 5 points on their turn, so they opted not to recover the assets. They chose to just shoot and charge. Speaking of which, they kill 4 Gretchen with their plasma exterminators. Can you say overkill? With the apothecary falling back to safety, the eradicators finish off the last 2 mega knobs, clearing them off the point. As they move to engage the commandos, they shoot at the beast boss and the assault marines deal 2 damage to him. In the charge phase, the Inceptors make a pretty much 1-inch charge into the Gretchen, and the assault marines charge into boss Snickrot and the commandos. In a horrifying turn of events, well, at least if you're a sneaky green lad, Hammer of Wrath from the assault marines kills 7 commandos on impact. The assault marines kick off the fight and they finish off boss Snickrot and the commandos. However, they spend 2 CP to use Orks is Never Beaten. That allows the Orks to fight on death, but they only bring down 1 assault marine. Snickrot does a couple of damage to the captain, but nothing else. It was a bit of a desperate play, but there was a world where Snickrot finishes off the captain with the precision blades and actually scores assassinate on their turn, but alas, it did not happen. In combat, the Inceptors kill a few more Grots, but don't finish them all off, and the Run Herder, the hero of the tale, actually deals a damage to one of the Inceptors. Again, another good turn, not a perfect turn though by the Deathwatch. They score 10 on primary, they score 3 for behind enemy lines, and 3 on recover assets. The problem here is that the Gretchen are still alive, and because the assumption was made that the Inceptors were going to wipe the squad, the movement, charge, pile in was a little lazy, and actually the Gretchen hold on to the objective, so yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a blunder, but you know what, we'll see if it pans out in the end. So the Orks are quickly running out of units, but they're going to score as many points as they can. They still have Assassinate from the last turn. They also draw Area Denial, which pretty much comes down to if they can kill that Apothecary, then they will score a lot of secondary points. So funny enough, the Runt Herd succeeds on leadership, and he maintains their home objective. They fall back from the Inceptors. The Beast Boss moves towards the middle to make a fairly long charge. He gives himself Here We Go to give that +2 to charge to try to finish off that Apothecary, and the Flash Gits continue to close in on the Eradicators. Now this was a little bit of a desperate play, but running out of units, it sort of got desperate. The Weird Boy wasn't going to be able to make it to any of the objectives on foot, so he used the jump, naturally rolled a 1, and then dealt 6 mortal wounds to himself, instantly killing himself. So I am very close to titling this battle The Last Jump, but here we go. Good night, sweet prince. You did well, I suppose. Back to the action. The Inceptors spend 1 CP to use Overwatch, finish off the last Gretchen, not killing the Runt Herd, but that's actually enough to lose them the objective and get it over to the Inceptors for their next turn. While closing in on their heavily armored foe, the Flash Gits are able to finish off the wounded Eradicator. A big play was needed and the Beast Boss delivered. He makes an 11-inch charge thanks to the stratagem that was spent. He charges, he fights, and he finishes off the Apothecary, scoring his team a lot of points. It's not looking good. The Orks only have 7 models left, one of which is a Runt Herder, but you know what? They're still putting up points on the board, so we'll see how long it could last. The Orks are only able to score 5 on primary, thanks to the Gretchen, but they are able to also score Assassinate and Area Denial, giving them 10 secondary points, giving them the lead for now, 64 to 57, going into Deathwatch turn 4. Sometimes the dice are with you, and sometimes the cards are with you. The Deathwatch draw overwhelming force and no prisoners, both things that they want to do anyway, and this should make for a good turn 4 for them. This was a pretty quick turn. The Oath of Moment went on the Flash Gits, 1 CP was spent to give the Eradicators sustained hits. The poor Runt Herder backed into a corner, fought off the Inceptor as best he could, but was cut down, a true hero among his people. The Assault Marines also moved and easily surrounded the last Git. The Beast Boss fell to the overwhelming force of the Deathwatch. And with the Eradicators with +1 to hit right now for not moving and sustained hits, they finish off the Flash Gits. And with the Orks tabled, that's where we'll call it. The Deathwatch score 15 on primary and 5 for overwhelming force, 5 for no prisoners, bringing the total to 82 to 64 going into their final turn. And then over to turn 5, they score another 15. Well, really, they max out their primary at 50 points. They drew engage on all fronts and storm hostile objective, both of which they were able to do as the Orks no longer held any objectives, so they just had to take one they didn't control anymore. And they had enough fast units to engage in all 4 quarters. And that will do it. That'll bring the final score to 100 for the Deathwatch and 64 to the Orks. Technically, I suppose it could be 98 to the Deathwatch if you don't count Bring It Down. I'm really still surprised that the Beast Boss on Squigosaur is not a monster, but you know what? We checked the keywords and it said it wasn't a monster, so it is what it is. It was still a good battle, back and forth. Both sides took losses, but with the 20-man Beast Boy unit going down without doing any damage, or the Squigosaur boss for that matter, that spelled doom for the Orks. Either way, if you've made it this far, I want to thank you. Feel free to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this, and there will be plenty of video gaming coming along as well. And as always, until next time, happy rolling.